Good morning, all those in this gate. We are pleased to extend the warmest welcome to everyone to the Startup Thailand 2017 Scale Up Asia. Let's kick off the first keynote of the day. It's very insightful, and we would like to bring you to join in the University Entrepreneurship and Innovation System at the University of Tokyo. Can you allow me to introduce you our distinguished speaker? Professor Shigeo Kagami is General Manager, Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Divisions of University Corporation Relationship at the University of Tokyo, Japan. And we are now to welcome him on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. Shigeo Kagami.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much indeed. And I'm very much honored to be part of this great community. First of all, I'll be expressing my special thanks to National Innovation Agency and Thailand's Ministry of Science and Technology for inviting me to this great conference of Startup Thailand 2017. And also, I'd like to also express my special thanks to NATO for connecting me with this great community of innovation and entrepreneurship. Today, I would like to spend almost a half an hour to talk about my experience on how in Japan we have been doing to encourage academic entrepreneurship for the last decade or so. So we have done a trial and error, did lots of failures and mistakes, but I think we have been doing a little bit better, little by little, day by day, or maybe year by year. So I hope my talk would have some help to discuss further how Thailand and Japan work together to encourage entrepreneurship and innovation. Well, let me start with this interesting slide. The gentleman over there, gentleman from the left, second person from the left, Professor Suga. When I first met with him almost a decade or so, he was wearing a ponytail and also, T-shirt and jeans. He is a great, interesting professor. And he looks a little bit formal, but I think he got the prize. You see this one. This is Prime Minister Abe. Prime Minister Abe, for the first time in history, tried to recognize young entrepreneur, just putting Prime Minister's name on it. So what do we call a Prime Minister's Award? The company called Peptide Dream. By the way, Professor Suga's technology. He came back to University of Tokyo almost 10 years ago, I guess. And he was a professor of New York State University, Buffalo. He made lots of patents over there. And also he came back to University of Tokyo and come up with lots of inventions. And our tech transfer office, we call it TLO, Technology Licensing Organization, tried to help Professor Suga to create what was a patent portfolio to do business. And this company, Peptide Dream, was created. And then the gentleman next to Professor Suga was Mr. Kiichi Kubota. He's a CEO of the Peptide Dream. So those two gentlemen happened to come across somehow to create a new company called Peptide Dream. The younger gentleman next to Mr. Kubota is Mr. Goji. Mr. Goji used to be official of METI. He's a young official at METI, but he decided after he finished in his MBA at Stanford University, he decided to join the venture capital community. So he's the president and also managing partner of the venture capital company called the University of Tokyo Edge Capital. We call it the UTech for short. So this UTech, again, University of Tokyo Edge Capital, was created back in 2004. When Japan's national university became what we call incorporated, it's what we call a university reform back in 2004. It's a dramatic reform, and I'll be talking a little bit about details later. But again, Mr. Goji, finishing his career as a METI official, and he joined the venture capital community. He's a president. He is trying to help this great biotechnology company, Peptide Dream, and very successfully. This company went public several years ago, and then the company moved to the first section Tokyo Stock Exchange. The market capitalization of this company is a little bit over $4 billion. That's a huge capitalization. Very successful. This company got the National Prime Minister's Award last year, and this company was fully recognized by the Prime Minister. Again, Prime Minister Abe tried to recognize young entrepreneur teams, putting Prime Minister's name on it. That's a very dramatic reform in Japan right now. This Peptide Dream is the biotechnology company, founded by Professor Suga and Mr. Kubota together. And University of Tokyo Edge Capital, our venture capital arm, dedicated University of Tokyo, tried to help. And our tech transfer office, technology licensing organization, University of Tokyo TLO, tried to help for patent or intellectual property rights management. And by the way, this company was incubated by us, and I'm managing incubation facility within the campus. So this company is a typical university startup using university technology, helped by tech transfer office. University of Tokyo's own sort of venture capital arm, dedicated University of Tokyo, tried to help them, and this company became a very successful entrepreneur team. But still, they are on the way for another new stage for the growth. But again, this company has been so successful. Again, market cap is $4 billion. University of Tokyo Edge Capital, which is very unique. This company was founded in 2004. This company is not a subsidiary of the University of Tokyo. By the way, at that time in 2004, to create any investment or venture capital company at all at that time. But now we are allowed to create a company, another investment company called University of Tokyo Innovation Platform Organization. So we have now having 2 investment or venture capital company within the campus. By the way, UTech has 3 funds. First fund is almost like $80 million. Second fund is $70 million, and the third fund is approximately $140 million. So altogether, $300 million funds, which is huge funds. They have invested more than 75 companies so far. Some of them very successful, and Peptide Dream is the most successful, transaction at the time of the initial public offering. The startups, on an accumulation basis, this data came from the Ministry of Economy and Trade and Industry. As of April last year, 2016, University of Tokyo seems to be doing well, ranked #1, and which is followed by the other national universities. Today, I'm representing University of Tokyo. I'm very proud of this data, but I have another data of a list of University of Tokyo related startups. I have a data of a little bit more than 300 university startups based on university technology or student ideas and so on for the last decade or so. So we're trying to help either researcher of the University of Tokyo or student of the University of Tokyo by using their own technologies or ideas. So both researcher and student together. What happened to the University of Tokyo for the last decade or so? This is a very important event. That's what I call the incorporation of a national university. It's not a privatization, incorporation of the national university. University of Tokyo will be celebrating 140th anniversary this particular year. So history-wise, it's a huge, long history. But before 2004, University of Tokyo, on a simplified fashion, it was part of a Ministry of Education. Now, 2004, University of Tokyo became independent organization where president of the university should run the business, even though still University of Tokyo should rely on tax money from the government. But when I joined the University of Tokyo back in 2002 as a professor of the Graduate School of Pharmaceutical Sciences in 2002, rate of dependence on the tax money, on the money from the government, was almost like 51%. But now it's almost like 35%. Government said, because we have a problem, so therefore we have to decrease budget to allocate to you, each national university. I'm sorry to say, but even though we have to decrease the budget, but you have to think about yourself, how you can compete in a global university competition by putting your differentiation of each national university its own effort. So at the expense of the liberty or freedom or discretion, whatever you call, university should be faced with a situation where a budget from the government, Ministry of Education, has been decreasing for the last decade or so. Again, 51% in 2002, almost 35% now. So in order to maintain quality and quantity of education research, you have to get access to external funding, which might include donation from your graduates, or maybe competitive grant from either Ministry of Education, Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry, maybe any other competitive grants, which might include NATO grants and so on. So it's a highly competitive situation. At the time of incorporation of National University, there are two major dramatic changes. First one was, as I indicated, budget is now limited, so therefore we have to get access to external funding. So in order to increase the budget for research, we have to get closer to the industry to get the what we call a joint research project. That's one thing. A second thing is that this is more important for the entrepreneurship university. That is the change of the intellectual property management role. Before 2004, as long as you're a researcher, you come up with your invention. You have to report your invention, but your invention is basically yours. But after 2004, as a researcher of the University of Tokyo, your invention belonged to the university. So that's a dramatic change. Again, before 2004, your invention, you have to report your invention, but I think your invention is yours. But after 2004 April, your invention should be reported to the university. And the university itself should be the patent owner of the intellectual property rights which you, as inventor, come up with. But again, the inventor should be rewarded. So therefore, we have made a tremendous changes of the rules of intellectual property management rule, which is very similar to that of the United States, frankly speaking. For example, you are an inventor, and your invention happens to be sexy enough to get the revenue. That's what I call a royalty. So after deduction of necessary expenses, the remaining portion, we call it the profit, for example, and the profit, 30% profit comes to the university itself. 30% comes to the department you belong to as a researcher, and the remaining 40% comes to you as an inventor. So that is something that we change, the intellectual property management role. So now university is the owner of the intellectual property rights after 2004. So therefore, 2004, I moved from Graduate School of Pharmaceutical Sciences to this organization called Division of University Corporate Relations, where I became a professor. And also, of course, I teach entrepreneurship innovation, but at the same time, I do practice. I'm running incubation facility. I've been a board member of a venture capital company of UTech, for example. And also, I do accept any kind of inquiry regarding your intention about your entrepreneurship, either from students or researcher. So any kind of consultation. So money, incubation, any consultation, and also we're trying to create what I call the mentoring network in University of Tokyo. I have a list of almost 60, 70 mentors to help entrepreneur teams to put the business more realistic. So again, for the last decades, we're trying to make every effort to create what we call an innovation ecosystem around the campus. So, incorporation national university is a very, very important event for Japan. And after that, every national university trying to come up with the idea how they have the capacity to help academic entrepreneurs, even students or researchers. Again, this is a royalty rule change, as I indicated. Again, 40% comes to the inventor. But again, intellectual property rights should be owned by the university. That is a very important rule change. This is how I see the innovation in Japan. I'm currently, trying to help, again, researcher and the students develop a business based upon the ideas and technologies. At the same time, I'm in charge of collaboration, the big industry. How we can work together. Toyota Motors, University of Tokyo work together to come up with the idea of artificial intelligence for autonomous car, for example. And we have made what we call a Hitachi University of Tokyo lab for a particular technology arena. And also we have made University of Tokyo and NEC for artificial intelligence and a research project together. So we're trying to make an effort to work with the larger organization at the same time. But quite interestingly, sometimes a larger organization, in order to make it happen innovation for those corporations, of course, sometimes they work together with researcher to create a joint research project. But at the same time, there are so many startups right now to help large organizations to let them acquire technology, not from the university itself, but from the university startups. So therefore, all of a sudden, this triangle seemed to be a more important chart for both university, big corporation, even startups. So that is very important. So I'm running the incubation facility where currently approximately 30 companies being incubated by us. So sometimes those corporations might be helped. But the large organization, either a business partner, sometimes they are involved with the ownership of the particular startups in order to make sure that the relationship should be more smooth. So therefore, this triangle is some of the chart I always keep in mind. So I work together, big organizations, startups, and so on. On top of it, my organization is a practice organization, even though I teach. But again, historically, University of Tokyo has no business school within the campus. So therefore, I started entrepreneurship education in 2005, second year of my service to this organization. So far, 13-year history of entrepreneurship education. So entrepreneurship education in the middle, and the incubation, and also the venture capital function, and also any kind of collaboration. We are trying to play a go-between role between the large organization and the University of Tokyo. So again, this triangle seems to be a very important one. Japan, as you may be aware, big corporations used to be doing everything, what's called a linear model. So central research function try to do a basic research and applied research at the same product development. But now, as you may be fully aware, large organizations are not able to do that, everything for it. They can't afford to do it. And also, the corporate governance, which is a very important topic in Japan right now, shareholders try to push large organizations to increase return on equity, for example. So in order to do that, large companies are not able to copy their own sort of research development function only. They have to get access to technology from outside. For example, some of my companies and University of Tokyo startup, one of them is what we call a Shaft. My student created a company called Shaft. That's a 2-foot robotics company. That was acquired by Google. And then SoftBank tried to buy back that particular company almost 2 weeks ago or so, I guess. But again, Google, for example, tried to buy 30, 40 companies a year. Even Google itself, Android operation system was acquisition. How about YouTube? Yes. And how about Google Earth? Yes. DeepMind, Go, AlphaGo, for example, champion of a Go was defeated by the AlphaGo. But again, that particular company was a UK company, DeepMind. So if you just take a look at the Google itself, that's the whole system is an acquisition history. For example, General Electric, for example, at the time of Jack Welch, he was a CEO from 1981 to the 2001, 20 years. He was involved almost in 900 merger and acquisitions. That's significantly. So some of them, of course, startups and so on. Again, big companies now in Japan are also trying to help themselves make an innovation, not only coming up from themselves within the organization, but also they are trying to get access to external technologies from outside. So that seems to be a very big change. When I was invited by Keidanren, that's a Japanese big organization federation, 5 years ago, and I was talking about my experience, a big company said that, oh, Professor Kagami, you're doing just great. What can I do to help you? It's almost like a corporate social responsibility context. But now it's a dramatic change. So big companies now fully aware, without relationship with the startups, they're not able to compete anymore in a global market competition. So therefore, I think the mentality of big corporation now seems to be changing, little by little, year by year. On top of it, corporate governance, pressure from the shareholders now try to encourage Japanese big companies try to work together with startups. I do also help large organizations to create a collaboration with the university. We produce almost like a 1,600 collaborative research project, by which we create a lot of intellectual property rights, by the way, and has been really increasing so far. But the problem is that even though we have a lot of joint research projects with the big industry, but innovation does not come up so often. Still, my problem is that, working together, big industry, that's very important. But in terms of innovation means to me is a real products and services which might be helpful to the society. It's not a scientific innovation, and I'm talking of the innovation, that means that the products and services. But the big companies are not able to create a real innovative products within the organization. But somehow they have problems. It's probably inevitable problem for a big organization. As I indicated, in a Google and a General Electric, they're trying to get access to external technologies. Companies try to put the entrepreneurship into the organization by depending on external technologies companies. This is a sort of a menu of the University of Tokyo for promoting university entrepreneurship. A consultation and also mentoring. That's very important, to make all the business plan of young entrepreneur teams realistic from the market perspective. And also we have a venture capital investment company. As I indicated, University of Tokyo EduCapital has been doing a great job indeed for the last decade or so. And also University of Tokyo Innovation Platform Corporation was created as a 100% subsidiary of University of Tokyo. By the way, this initiative was given by the Japanese government. Minister of METI and the Minister of Education together. And also we got approximately $400 million from the government to make this investment company. This money, altogether $1 billion, came to University of Tokyo, Kyoto University, and Osaka University, and the Tohoku University only, 4 universities. So by which we're trying to help technology-based entrepreneurs using university technology for making happen for innovation. Again, incubation is a very important element, and I'm running the incubation facility where almost like 30 companies being incubated. And also we are adding one more space within the campus in almost equivalent space in addition to that. And also education seems very important. It's quite interestingly, our organization, practice organization, but again, somehow we are able to offer education. Sometimes we discover great entrepreneurs through the process of education. Of course, educating young people to be much more innovation-driven, that's a very important thing. But at the same time, frankly speaking, we sometimes discover very intelligent but highly entrepreneurial young people, either researcher or students, to help them to take a look at the possibility of being a great entrepreneur based upon university technologies. About education, University of Tokyo Entrepreneur Dojo. Dojo is like a judo in a practice, and we started 2015. Every year, approximately 250 students enroll for the program. But we're trying to make this a program. By the way, this program, we used not to offer academic credits. But for the last two years or so, we're trying to connect our programs with the undergraduate of engineering, and then we are able to offer academic credits to the students who are enrolled in the program. So this particular year, we are lucky enough to have a little bit over 550 students for this program, thanks to the change of the programs. Now we offer academic credits. So last year 350, this year almost 550 students enrolled for the program. So at the end of the program, we have a business competition. And winners of the business competition either dispatched to Beijing to have an exchange program with the Beijing University, Peking University together, and also some of the students dispatched to the South by Southwest exhibition in Austin, Texas, in the United States. So every year we send almost 10 teams. Last year, by the way, this particular year in March, our student team got the what we call a Student Innovation Award at the South by Southwest. By the way, this award is a very well-known award because 2007, I think Twitter got the prize, and 2011 Airbnb got the prize. Happily enough, the Tokyo team got the prize for this particular year. And most of the students for my program are graduate school students, engineering department. So therefore, they sometimes have their own sort of a invention. So that is very unique. In most of the cases, an invention, either professor and a student, sometimes joint inventorship sometimes. So again, this is the profile of the students enrolled for my program for the last decade or so. And also we added another program, and thanks to the help by the Ministry of Education for the last 3 years, and also we are starting another program called Edge Next. This is EDGE program. We are starting the EDGE Next program from this particular year for the next 5 years. This program designed for the researcher, either PhD students or postdoctoral researchers who have never thought about the business. So the most important thing is that they have a great papers. That sounds very sexy as a paper. They might be a list of the great scholars, but again, a great paper does not necessarily mean the business. So the most important thing is that how you really interpret academic paper to transform the academic paper to the showcase looks like a business, smell like a business, I should say. So what I can do, recruit some of the postdoctoral researchers and PhD students, again, who have never thought about the business, and start with the academic papers. So we're trying to make a question. If there's any way of using that particular technology, who could be beneficial by the technology for some reason? So we're trying to try to interpret from the customer's perspective by using that particular technology. So in the end of the program, business, showcase looks really good business. And we're trying to encourage them to be exposed, the Silicon Valley venture capitalists, to let the students be exposed to the business community and to make a 5-minute pitch and get feedback from the venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. So we have done that kind of educational program for the last 3 years. And then we're trying to do that again for the next 5 years or so. Again, this is Public-Private Innovation Fund program as indicated. A government tried to encourage leading 4 research universities in Japan, including University of Tokyo, try to capitalizing on the research efforts to make it happen for innovation through university startups. And we got almost like 50 billion Japanese yen. That means $500 million to use that money for university startups. So again, there are so many, I think, great initiatives, and NEDO made a great initiatives as NEDO experts indicated yesterday, and a technology commercialization program, startup innovator programs, and STS and SCA. Those programs are very beneficial to the university startups because through those programs, university technology could be exposed to the business community, by which those entrepreneurs should go for the next step. So thanks to the NEDO, thanks to the any other government efforts, University of Tokyo I feel that it has been really encouraged by the government. Again, governments is fully involved for technology startups based on university technology. This is the last slide. I'm involved with this Asian Entrepreneurship World Competition for the last 5 years. I'm one of the hosts of the program. We invite young entrepreneur teams from 16 Asian countries. We have added Israel and New Zealand for this particular year. So altogether 16 countries. Approximately 30 entrepreneur teams are invited by our own expense. And then we invite them to, in Japan, the place called Kashiwanoha. It's a Chiba prefecture, not Tokyo. But there we have, University of Tokyo, we have own campus over there. And Mitsui Fudosan, that's a real estate company, it's a biggest sponsor. Thanks to the other sponsorship, we're organizing the competition. The most important thing is that Japan should be still one of the centers in Asia to try to encourage young entrepreneurs. So probably the young entrepreneurial teams from Asian countries might have a business access to a big Japanese corporation. That would happen. And also Japanese venture capitalists might be interested in making an investment to startups in Asia. So therefore, this conference is organized fully in English language. So semi-final competition, a mentoring session, and also final session, all English language. So, as you may be aware, Japan is not necessarily so a great country where English is in the language of the conference. But again, this conference is fully English-spoken conferences. And, for the last 5 years, very successful. Some of the companies, even Thailand, and my connection with the Thammasat and so on, we invite some professor of Thammasat to bring pick up some of the great sexy entrepreneur teams to Japan, and we have a competition. But again, this is not a competition at all. This is beyond the competition. We furnish a sort of a friendship, and also we are creating, how can I say, infrastructure, more or less, how we can really encourage young entrepreneur teams as Asian as a whole. And a Japanese venture capital community, angel investor, and also university as a whole might be playing some roles for it. Okay, this is the last slide, and I'm sure that you may have lots of questions. I'm working here and there, so if you have a question, please let me know. I would be more than happy to answer. But thank you very much indeed for your attention. Thanks.
This is Professor Dr. Shigeo Kagami. Thank you very much to you. The experiences you share is valuable insight for us, and thank you for making the first sessions of the day productive as well. สำหรับในช่วง